Before the world knew her name, Lucy Thomas was simply a soft-spoken teenager from Wigan, England, carrying a love for music that felt too large for her age. When she stepped onto the stage of The Voice Kids UK in 2018, nothing about her appearance suggested the storm of attention that was about to follow. She stood small under the lights, visibly nervous, almost hesitant in her presence. But the moment she began singing Moon River, something shifted in the room. Her voice didn't try to impress, it simply existed with a purity that felt rare and unmanufactured. The studio audience fell into a kind of stunned silence, as if collectively afraid to interrupt what they were witnessing. One by one, judges including Pixie Lott and Danny Jones turned their chairs, visibly moved by the unexpected emotional depth coming from someone so young. It wasn't just technical ability that captured attention, it was the stillness in her delivery, the way she seemed to understand the emotional weight of the lyrics without forcing interpretation. When she finished, the applause wasn't just loud, it felt reverent. In that moment, Lucy became more than a contestant. She became a story people wanted to follow, a reminder that extraordinary talent can appear quietly, without warning, and completely alter the atmosphere of a room simply by existing within it. The sudden rise of an unprepared star. After her performance aired, Lucy Thomas found herself thrust into a level of attention that few teenagers are prepared for. Clips of her singing spread rapidly across social media, turning her audition into one of the most talked-about moments of The Voice Kids UK that season. Viewers across the UK and beyond shared emotional reactions, many describing chills or tears while watching her rendition of Moon River. The contrast between her quiet personality and the magnitude of public reaction created a strange imbalance in her life. At school, she was still a student trying to keep up with assignments and friendships, but outside the classroom, she was being labeled a prodigy. Messages of admiration flooded in, some calling her voice angelic, others predicting a future classical crossover career. Despite the excitement, Lucy herself remained grounded, often overwhelmed by the sudden shift in attention. Her family became a protective barrier around her, especially as media interest grew. What many people didn't see was how quickly fame can arrive before emotional readiness catches up. While the world celebrated her talent, Lucy was still trying to understand what it meant to be recognized for something she had simply loved doing privately. That early contrast between public expectation and personal uncertainty would shape everything that followed. The weight of expectation after the spotlight. When the cameras stopped rolling, Lucy Thomas returned to Wigan, but her life no longer felt entirely her own. The attention from The Voice Kids UK didn't fade. Instead, it shifted into a constant digital presence that followed her everywhere. Messages, comments, and reposts of her performance of Moon River continued to circulate, building an image of perfection that she had never consciously tried to create. Teachers, classmates, and strangers all reacted to her differently, as if she had already stepped into a professional identity that she was still growing into. While much of the public narrative focused on her talent, Lucy herself experienced a quieter reality, one filled with pressure to live up to an expectation she didn't fully understand. Even small actions online were interpreted and discussed, turning normal teenage behavior into public commentary. Her family, particularly her mother, worked to shield her from the more overwhelming aspects of attention, but the emotional impact was unavoidable. Lucy later reflected that one of the hardest challenges was not performing on stage, but reconciling who she was privately with who people believed she should be. That gap between identity and expectation created an invisible weight that she carried silently, even as admiration from the world continued to grow. Learning to breathe outside the spotlight. As interest in Lucy Thomas expanded, she made a quiet decision that surprised many observers. She began stepping back from constant visibility. Rather than immediately pursuing every opportunity that followed her appearance on The Voice Kids UK, she chose a slower, more deliberate path. Invitations for interviews, performances, and public appearances were often declined or carefully limited. On the surface, it seemed as though she was disappearing, but in reality, She was trying to rebuild balance between her artistic identity and her personal life. Music remained central, but it became more private, focused on practice, vocal discipline, and emotional grounding rather than public validation. Even her interpretations of songs like Moon River were no longer tied to audience response, but to personal understanding. This period was not glamorous. It was quiet, repetitive, and deeply reflective. She spent time learning how to protect her voice, how to control technique, and how to separate expectation from expression. The absence of constant attention allowed her to observe something many young performers miss: the importance of internal stability. While the public interpreted her reduced visibility as withdrawal, it was actually a necessary recalibration. In that silence, she began forming the foundation of an artist who would not be shaped solely by external pressure. Family, grounding, and the return to normal life. Behind the early journey of Lucy Thomas stood a family deeply committed to preserving her sense of normality. After her appearance on The Voice Kids UK, her home environment became a crucial space of stability, especially as public attention intensified. Her mother played a particularly important role in managing external contact and filtering media demands, ensuring Lucy was not overwhelmed by sudden fame. At home in Wigan, life was intentionally kept simple. School routines, family dinners, and time with her sister helped maintain a sense of identity that existed outside of music. Singing did not disappear, but it shifted into something shared rather than performed. Moments of casual harmony rather than staged performance. Even songs like Moon River were revisited in a personal context, away from cameras and audience expectations. Her sister became one of her closest emotional anchors, often singing with her in informal settings that restored a sense of normal teenage life. This grounding period was essential in preventing early fame from becoming overwhelming. It allowed Lucy to process what had happened at a slower pace, reinforcing the idea that her worth was not defined solely by public recognition. In many ways, her family environment became the invisible structure that supported everything she would later build artistically. First recordings and the quiet building of an artist. As time passed, Lucy Thomas began transitioning from television recognition into recorded music, a shift that allowed her greater control over her artistic direction. Rather than pursuing immediate commercial exposure after The Voice Kids UK, she aligned with a smaller independent label that focused on classical crossover development. This approach gave her space to explore her voice without the intensity of mainstream pressure. Her early recordings included reinterpretations of well-known pieces, including emotionally expressive versions of songs like Moon River. What stood out was not vocal power alone, but restraint, the ability to convey emotion without overwhelming it. Studio sessions became a form of education rather than performance, where she learned about phrasing, microphone technique, and vocal preservation. Each recording was treated as a learning experience, helping her understand how music is shaped beyond raw talent. The process was slow and deliberate, reflecting a long-term vision rather than immediate success. While some young performers chase rapid visibility, Lucy's early recording period was defined by patience and refinement. It was during this time that she began to develop an identity not as a television moment, but as a recording artist capable of sustained growth and emotional depth. Strain, isolation, and the hidden cost of perfection. As Lucy Thomas continued recording, particularly during periods of intense focus, the physical demands of singing began to reveal themselves. Even after her early exposure on The Voice Kids UK, she approached music with increasing seriousness, often pushing herself to achieve takes that met her internal standards. Songs like Moon River and other emotionally demanding pieces required sustained control, and over time, this dedication began to strain her voice. Recording sessions became longer, sometimes extending into late hours, as she worked to refine subtle imperfections. The global disruption of the pandemic era intensified this isolation, turning home recording into both opportunity and challenge. While it allowed creative independence, it also blurred boundaries between practice and overexertion. Without external pressure to stop, she often continued working beyond healthy limits, driven by perfectionism rather than necessity. This phase marked an important turning point in her development, where passion began to intersect with physical vulnerability. Although she did not publicly express distress at the time, the strain was gradually shaping her understanding of sustainability in music. It became clear that talent alone was not enough. Long-term artistry required careful balance between ambition and preservation. Reinvention. Through growth and collaboration. Following periods of strain and reflection, Lucy Thomas re-emerged with a more mature artistic identity. Her later releases reflected a deeper emotional awareness, shaped by years of experience both in and beyond the spotlight of The Voice Kids UK. Songs like Moon River continued to represent her early identity, but newer interpretations showed increased emotional complexity and control. Collaborations with her sister added another layer to her development, turning personal connection into musical expression. Their harmonies demonstrated a natural synchronization that resonated with audiences, reinforcing the idea that music could be both intimate and expansive. As her audience grew online, she maintained a consistent approach, focus on authenticity rather than spectacle. Despite rising visibility, she avoided the volatility often associated with young performers. Instead, she built a catalog of work defined by emotional sincerity and technical refinement. This period marked her transition from emerging talent to established artist within her genre, not through dramatic reinvention, but through steady accumulation of skill, experience, and confidence. Her growth was not sudden, it was layered, gradual, and deeply intentional. Stepping onto the stage beyond television. One of the most defining chapters in Lucy Thomas's journey came when she moved from recorded music into live theatrical performance. After years removed from the competitive environment of The Voice Kids UK, she entered the world of stage acting and musical theatre, performing in a West End production at a major London venue. This transition represented a new kind of challenge, one that demanded not only vocal control but also physical presence, emotional endurance, and live performance resilience. Unlike studio recordings of songs such as Moon River, theater required repetition, stamina, and immediate audience engagement. The pressure of performing in real time brought back familiar nerves, yet also reinforced her growth. Each performance tested her confidence in ways television never had. Critics responded positively, noting her emotional clarity and composure on stage. For Lucy, this experience was less about validation and more about proving to herself that she could sustain artistry in its most demanding form. It marked a symbolic expansion of her identity, from televised talent to fully realized performer capable of commanding live audiences. Legacy of a quietly evolving voice. By the time her journey reached its later stages, Lucy Thomas had built a career defined not by noise or controversy, but by consistency and emotional depth. From her first appearance on The Voice Kids UK to her continued interpretations of songs like Moon River, her path reflected a rare form of artistic evolution, grounded in restraint rather than spectacle. She became known not for chasing fame, but for shaping a sustainable relationship with it. Her influence extended beyond performance into mentorship and inspiration for young listeners who saw in her story a different model of success, one that allowed space for growth, privacy, and self-understanding. Despite public curiosity, she maintained a grounded personal life, choosing balance over constant exposure. Her legacy is not defined by a single moment, but by a continuous process of becoming. In an industry often driven by rapid visibility, her journey stands as an example of quiet persistence. Ultimately, her story suggests that stepping back is not disappearance, but sometimes the most deliberate form of artistic survival. Conclusion: the strength found in silence. The story of Lucy Thomas is not simply about early fame from The Voice Kids UK or the emotional impact of songs like Moon River. It is about the complexity of growing up in public while still trying to understand oneself in private. Her journey reflects the tension between recognition and preservation, between expectation and authenticity. What makes her path distinctive is not just her voice, but the decisions she made around it. When to step forward, when to pause, and when to rebuild away from external noise. In choosing a slower, more intentional trajectory, she redefined what success could look like for a young artist. Rather than being consumed by the momentum of early attention, she shaped her career around longevity and emotional truth. Her story challenges the assumption that visibility is the only measure of achievement. Instead, it suggests that quiet periods can be just as formative as public milestones. In the end, her journey is less about disappearing from fame and more about learning how to exist within it without losing herself.